I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
I knew it. I love when he does that.
Did you see we got a bit of film footage of the Rhodes family, the Rhodes couple, Cody and Brandi at home? They get a Christmas gift dropped off on their doorstep. They open it up. It wasn't a box of dog shit, flaming box of dog shit. Instead, it was a notice that they're having a baby. This is real and legitimate. Apparently, Brandi Rhodes and Cody Rhodes are having a baby. And I know the last time that there was a wrestling baby, it was Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, and I enraged the world. I said, this is horrible timing. Becky Lynch is one of the biggest female box office attractions in the business. It's taken her out of high-profile matches. It's taken her out of making a fortune. It's taken her out of appearing on television. This is horrible timing. I couldn't get over it. And now that Brandi is in the same position, I just want to be the first one to say congratulations, Cody. You've done a great job for yourself and for all mankind. Brandi, off television, out of angles.
Oh, God.
Do you think she's going to have a fucking match with Jade Cargill when she's fucking 12 months pregnant or whatever?
No, I think all that's out the window, which now makes the whole thing even more puzzling. Because last week, again, was her confronting Shaquille O'Neal on there. Let me also say congratulations. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm very happy for them. So
anything that takes Brandi off television, don't.
I think I'm happy for them beyond that. Beyond that, I'm happy for them. I will say, though, filming this little skit with their announcement, it's like right out of the Dallas Page playbook. You know, like, hey, I got something to say. Let's get a camera crew over here. But beyond that, I'm happy for them. I think it's a wonderful thing. Whenever you can
I'm happy for everybody that Brandi won't be on TV either.
I'm happy for them as human beings and as future parents.
Well, some people like children.
And by the way, she was on TV anyway.
She was on TV announcing that she
was out there later on with her baby bump.
She doesn't have a baby bump yet, does she?
She was rubbing her. I mean, maybe it's a slight bump. It's not big yet.
Oh, well, okay. I forgot. She was out later because the next match was Cody against Angelico. But Angelico did the fucking spastic dance thing that he does to the ring that makes him look like he's fucking having a goddamn epileptic thing. And I decided that Christmas is too special to waste any of the time of the season. And I fast forwarded this whole goddamn match.
Oh, it was good. It was good.
I'm sure it was with Cody in it. He won with a cutter off the ropes, but surprise, Angelico took a horrible bump for the cutter. Cody beat him, which is not a surprise. And I can't watch that fucking gyration stuff that he does. And
I find it funnier each time I see it. Every time I see it, it gets funnier and funnier.
And plus, he's another guy that he needs to run around in the fucking shower to get wet. He can tread water in a garden hose. He's a Cheerio for a hula hoop. When he gets sunburned, he looks like a thermometer. He turns sideways, sticks his tongue out. He looks like a zipper. I could go on. Then Team Taz came out to berate Cody in the afterbirth of this thing, because there always has to be an afterbirth to every match. Darby's sitting in the bleachers. Have you noticed a lot of these guys just sit in the bleachers, hang out, carrying their belt? But Darby's all alone. He ain't got a lot of friends. Taz and the heels are going to come to the ring and beat the shit out of Cody. Blackout, snow, video, Sting. Sting comes out on the stage with his black baseball bat. And guess what he does? He stands there and looks at the heels and all 5 heels. At the sight of a 61-year-old man standing stationary looking at them, take off and leave. And Sting then looked at everyone that was still there and then left. They've run out of ideas in the second week? Was this...
They have to somehow prolong this for multiple years. So, I mean,
that's going back to our original topic of what the fuck's Sting going to do full-time, multi-year. He could have at least run at them or swung the bat, or all 5 heels. Brian Cage, jacked up Brian Cage, Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, 35 years younger and 100 pounds bigger than Sting. Taz, the human suplex machine. Everybody, oh, fuck, we got to get out of here. He's standing there looking at us. We found out that Miro was fined $75,000 for hurting hospitalizing 3 staff members. $25,000 per person, according to Officer Bar Brady, who was interviewing him.
Let me stop you right now. They had Dasha on this show doing interviews too. Have her do all the interviews.
Of course.
Alex Marvez cannot say anything and have it sound genuine. It's impossible. I'm convinced now it's completely impossible. There's
genetically.
Every time he talks, it sounds like I'm reciting what I was told to recite. Dasha makes it seem natural. She's really good.
Well, Miro's hair is black now, and we're still going to have a wedding. I'd forgotten about that. They hadn't actually had the wedding yet that he came in to be the best man for. But they're going to have one. They're going to have news on that soon. And he said, bah humbug about Christmas.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 238 of the Hoots Podcast. It's Thursday. You know what that means. It's December 31st, 2020. It's the final day of this hellhole of a year. But on a brighter note, it's the final Hoots Podcast of 2020. And this has been our most successful year, thanks solely because of each and every single one of you. It's yours truly, the nefarious brother Adam, aka Joshie Lopez. You can follow me at Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. I'm also on Instagram at Joshie Lopez 94. Today's podcast is in dedication of the late great Brodie Lee, Luke Harper, John Huber, who passed away unfortunately last Saturday at the age of 41. And I want to send my thoughts to John's family. It's been a very rough week for the pro wrestling industry. Also, I want to send my condolences out to the family of the late, great Danny Hodge as well. He passed away last week as well at the age of 88. And both of those men will be missed, man. This has been a very rough week for wrestling fans, people that work in the wrestling industry, and there's been a lot of outpouring of love, praise, and just sheer adulation, especially for John Huber, and rightfully so. I'm definitely going to miss covering Mr. Brodie Lee's matches, and this show is dedicated to him and his family, and as Eric Rowan put on Dynamite last night, we'll see you down the road, Mr. Brodie Lee. So this show's going to be a little different. We'll have our signature segments, like What the Hell is Wrong with AEW. For those wondering, there's nothing to actually rip from Dynamite this week. Obviously, it was a celebration show, and I'll explain why when we get into the segment. So if you're tuning in and you're expecting me to do what I usually do with AEW, it's not the case. This week's episode is a year-end review, so I'm going to be doing the outlook type of thing for WWE and AEW this week. And I have some stuff that I'll rant about because that is the root of that segment, but it has absolutely nothing to do with what happened last night on TNT, so I want to make that perfectly clear before anybody jumps on me. There's one thing about yours truly, and a sort of person that I'm going to bring up during that segment. I'm really cognizant of self-awareness and reading rooms, and unlike Bruce Mitchell, I'm not going to come out here and say things that are going to harm people, especially grieving during a time like this. So don't think what you're going to get and what the hell is wrong with AEW. You'll notice it when you hear it. Also, got the infamous Thoughts of Jericho. Wait, scratch that. We're doing the Thoughts of Joshie today. We couldn't finish out 2020 without a positive message to each and every single one of you as we head into 2021. So I'll be doing that later on in the podcast as well. And 2020 year in review of pro wrestling in 2020, and be remiss about mentioning making predictions for Wrestle Kingdom 15 that's taking place on Monday and Tuesday. It's a 2-night event out at the Tokyo Dome, so it's going to be a couple long nights for your boy in the coming days, and I'm looking forward to that. Really quick with some business stuff. If you could, please subscribe to the Hoots Podcast right now, anywhere you get your podcast from. It comes to you free of charge every single Thursday. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, like I said, anywhere you get your podcast from. You don't have to pay a cent for listening to this podcast. The best part of it is that when you get the audio version, you get all the production elements, and you don't have to see my mug. So it's a win-win proposition for each and every single one of you. So make sure to do that. And if you could, please leave us a 4 or 5 star review. It helps us expand the reach of the show. And one last piece of request from yours truly. If you could, please bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. That's my baby. That's my website where I transcribe all your favorite pro wrestling shows. So yeah, that's pretty much it for plugs and stuff. So I guess we should keep the rig on the road, if you will, and let's get into the Good Brother Q&A session, pal. Yes, we will. We're gonna start this off per ritual with the good brother of all good brothers, the one and only Chris Letta at XTeenZaletta24X on the Twitters. He says, "What's up, Oos? Hope you had a Merry Christmas. Thank you, and have a Happy New Year. Thank you for the brotherhood we've built in 2020. Here's some questions for the Q&A this week. First off, Chris, thank you for playing such an integral part of this podcast over the last 4 to 5 months. Whereas the interactions, the feedback, just the personal conversations we've had over the last couple of months, I really appreciate you, brother, and your genuine support for this podcast means the world to myself and Brother Carter, and you plays just a bigger role into this particular segment as anybody, and the show in general, so no, don't thank me, man. Thank you. I'm very humbled for the fact that you enjoyed this podcast, and this is a good, positive escape for you, and I hope you have a wonderful New Year as well. So, here we go. We're actually starting out with a couple of sports questions, which I kind of like, actually. That's the thing with the Good Brothers Q&A session. All you have to do, you can be a good brother, you can be a good sister. If you want to ask me a question, you can send me a question on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. You can email me a question at thehootspodcast@gmail.com, or you can even leave me a question here on Facebook. So there are a lot of different ways to hit up your boy and get your voice heard on the Good Brothers Q&A. So let's get this bad boy started. How big of a threat have the Padres become with the additions of Blake Snell and Yu Darvish? Well, they're definitely saying that they're going all in. I mean, it's got to be now or never for, like, San Diego. I think the last World Series they were in was 1998 or 9. I always remember Tony Gwynn because that was during the whole Yankees dynasty time period. I was born in 94, so, like, I grew up in late 90s, early 2000 baseball, so San Diego used to be really big back then, and they got a talented squad. They're definitely going all in. I mean, Blake Snell was in the World Series last year. Yu Darvish was a runner-up for Cy Young this past season. I don't know about the haul the Cubs got back. Kind of odd. Looks like right now that the Cubs are kind of trying to save money and stuff. Hey, what do you have against the Marquee Network? People, if they listen to Chicago Sports Radio, will get that reference. I think they are a big threat. I'm not the biggest Los Angeles Dodgers fan. I'm not. But I give credit where credit's due. They've just done a really swell job of building their organization. Even with the fact they have so much payroll, they could buy anybody they want, but also they loaded up their farm system as well. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that enough. And it looks like San Diego's doing the same thing. So I think they're a big threat. But still, at the end of the day, the Dodgers are still the team to beat in the NL, the National League, in my opinion. Next question. Will Mitch Trubisky be back in Chicago next year now after his recent play? Chris, I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that question, to be honest with you. It was cool to see Mitch get the media guy, good guy award this week. I thought that was really cool, and it's a testament to the kid's character and how professional he's always been, even with the crap that dude has to deal with on a daily basis. For me personally, would I like to see him come back? Yes, absolutely. We'll see what happens on Sunday with the Packers. Should be a good game. There's a lot of things to be answered, and for me, with sports and wrestling, I like to have stuff play out instead of rushing into conclusions. So there could be a lot of things that could happen after this Sunday. I just want to see what happens, and we'll go from there. So I like that question, though. Who will have a big year in 2021 in New Japan Pro Wrestling? it's hard to say because, with covering the G1 and like the New Japan Cup every year, it seems like a lot of the breakout guys I think would have breakout performances this coming year already did in those tournaments, Like, it'd be easy for me to say, oh, Juice Robinson's going to break out. But Juice Robinson's been breaking out. Juice Robinson's one of the best performers in New Japan. So I'd say maybe somebody like Sonata, like watch out for Suji, for Young Lion. I don't know how much longer he's going to be in that system, but I say look out for him. Look out for a little bit more for Desperado. I thought he really had a good show for himself at the Best in Super Juniors tournament. Look out for Sonata, like I said already. Maybe look out for Shingo to get into the main event scene. There's a lot of different options you could go with when it comes to New Japan. They have such a talented roster. I will say this. I think Tama Tonga is going to have a really big year in 2021, whether it's with GOD or him as a solo performer. So I'd say Tama Tonga is probably the one to be on the lookout on my end. So oh man, this is going to be a rough question. Where does the Dark Order go from here? Well, I think they continue on. I don't, with the celebration last night and how everything went, it was beautiful, and all the Dark Order got to be represented on the show, obviously, and they all won their respective matches, so that was really cool to see. And I'd see no point with them stopping their group. They're a good unit. I'm actually starting to enjoy a lot of their work more as the months has gone by. To be honest, initially I never liked the Dark Order, but I've grown into liking them a lot, especially for the stuff they do on BTE. But when I look at the Dark Order now, it's like you keep going on, and if you have Hangman be the leader of the group going forward in the future, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So that's probably what I would do. But you could go many different directions with that. So let's see. Next question. Will Daniel Bryan get one more title run before he retires? I don't believe so, Chris. I think Daniel Bryan had his title run that he's going to have of his career. I just don't know how much higher you could go up from, having that moment at WrestleMania 30 to having a really good heel title run in 2019 and having a WrestleMania Steelers show with Kofi Kingston. I just don't see another run with Daniel Bryan that would supersede either of those title reigns, So I don't see that happen. Could he have title matches? Sure. But I just don't see Daniel Bryan rekindling anything from the WrestleMania era or anything like that anymore. So, next question. Who should Seth Rollins face at WrestleMania? Well, I think this should my answer actually ties into the last question. Because for me, I think Daniel Bryan should fight the savior of Friday Night SmackDown, Seth Rollins, at WrestleMania. How about that, pal? Yeah. Where does David Hart Smith end up? That's a good question, man. I mean, I know Tony Khan's a big fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and who isn't, but would you like to reform the Killer Elite Squad? Maybe. I thought he had a good deal with MLW, but I guess his contract went up, so I guess he's going to be off doing something else, which is fine. He's a talented performer, so I think you'll find the right place for him. Hey, don't even be surprised if he shows up at NXT UK. I think that'd be a cool place for him to work at. All right, Ethan Page's contract expires Friday. Where does he end up? I think he stays with Impact Wrestling. I like Ethan Page, by the way. That guy's pretty funny. Never had a chance to interview him, but he's a really cool wrestler. So I like him, and I think he stays with Impact Wrestling. If Samoa Dynasty, Sifa, Lance, and Werewolf were to sign with WWE, would you have Roman turn on the Usos and pair the Dynasty with Roman? No, I would keep it as is right now. Also, at the same time, I wouldn't have the Samoan Dynasty on SmackDown. I would have them on Raw, because Raw is already the show that's built through factions. I mean, you got the Hurt Business there. You got other groups on that show. So I would say, for me personally, I think Samoa Dynasty would be a better fit on Monday Night Raw. So I get the intrigue of having those guys with Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns with the Usos and Paul Heyman is just fine on their own accord. I don't think they need to be added onto it. That's the thing when we get to like these outlooks of the companies that you're not. I'm talking about stuff that I like, or things that I can see to be improved on in 2021. So I'm looking forward to doing this segment for both of those companies. Chris, man, thank you for the questions this week. Awesome as always. All right, the next batch of questions comes from the one and only Nate the Great, which you can follow him at Twitter at Psycho Nagiri. Nate is a good brother of the Hoots podcast and TBD Wrestling podcast with my boy Mitchell McMule and referee Tony S. So check out that podcast as well. All right, here's Nate's first question. Which group do you think will have more success in 2021, Retribution or Dark Order? Oh, man, that's going to be a rough one. I really got to see how this thing plays out with Ricochet, because I think that could actually work for that group. I actually liked what they've done with that storyline with Retribution and Ricochet. I know it's a cool thing to dog on Retribution because of WWE and but I actually like Retribution. So, I think with me and wrestling Twitter, we're like oil and water. They're so irrational, and I'm the wrestling fan that just wants to actually enjoy the show without acting like I'm responsible for who goes over, who doesn't, and So I'll go Retribution. What helps you from getting depressed? Nate, I don't think there's anything you can do to avoid depression. You either have it or you don't. I don't think it's something you could just run away from. It's also something that you can't scoff at. I'll say that. I'll say that for the people who think that depression is not as damaging as other ailments, Depression is real. It's a real deal. And not enough people care about that, There's a lot of people that are just stuck in their bubble and stuck in their ways and how they view life, and, to each their own. But I think mental health is just as ailing as anything else that we talk about through life, What helps me push myself forward even while being depressed and living with depression is the fact that I have a higher ceiling to reach. I have a higher view of myself. And, I'm driven by proving people wrong, reaching my potential, and being pure and genuine. That's the third thing. And then number 4 is like, you could do a bunch of things. You could try to block things out of your head. You could try to move on for people that broke your heart. You could do a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, as long as you have yourself and you're tapped into your energy, and you're not worried about other people, and you're not letting other people dictate your life, I think you're better off that way. I really do. Because the more and more you go on about, like I have this in the back of my head. What can I do to shut it out? Oh, can I listen to music? Can I do this? Can I do that? You know, we all have our escapes. Pro wrestling's my escape. I fucking love this business. I've loved it since I was a kid. I started watching wrestling since I was 4 years old, and I'm not ashamed to say that I still love it. I'm 26 years old. You know, judge me. I like pro wrestling. You know, I like sports. I like music. I like comedy. I have my escapes. But also, with that, just because those are my escapes, I still have myself, too. You can't avoid depression. You have it, or you don't. So, it's a great question. I mean, I really don't think there's one thing that just helps you. Okay, if you do this, you're no longer going to be depressed. It's just not the situation. I mean, it's just going to hit you one way or another. You could be doing something later on tonight, and you have a memory that just hits you in the face, and you're like, oh, shit, my day's ruined. Oh, man, what's going to happen now? That type of thing. It sucks, man. Depression's a real thing. Mental health is a real thing. And some people handle it better than others. But for me, as somebody who lives with depression, I have everything within myself to push myself through any bad feelings or thoughts that go inside my brain. So that's how I deal with it. Are you excited for the Blackhawks to start up again soon? Well, I'm always excited to see new sports come back. I'm surprised they actually cut off half of the season for the NHL this year. I thought that was pretty interesting. So just to look at that, like, I think the Blackhawks are going to probably take a step back this season, and which is fine. They've had such a great stretch of success over the last 10 or 12 years. And probably looks like they're going into a rebuild. And I think Blackhawks will be better off than where they are right now. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch it. You know, always something good to have something else on TV instead of politics and other BS that you see on television. And, yeah, you know, go back to the depression thing. Having faith is probably the utmost thing besides having yourself is having faith in the man upstairs, having faith within yourself. And again, you have to push yourself through that. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody can understand where you come from, or you can't have other people step in your shoes. That just doesn't work that way. So, all right, the last question from Nate, and the last question for this segment. Who's someone you'd like to see win their first world title next year? Oh, I like this one. Oh, man. You know what, Nate? I'm going to separate this in with all the companies, all right? At least the main ones that I cover, all right? So, we'll start off with New Japan. Ishii, obviously, Ishii's never been an IWGP Heavyweight Champion, so I want to see that happen for him because he deserves it. For WWE, I like to see Damian Priest become a NXT champion. I think that'd be pretty cool. You know, maybe Dragunov or Joe Coffey become the United Kingdom champion. We'll see who, if anybody could stop Walter. But Walter, the ring general. That guy's awesome. Dude's the freaking best. Let's see. You know, you could save the world title for the ladies too. You know, it'd be nice. I think it'd be nice to see Lacey Evans become a world champion for women. You know, I think that'd be really cool, actually. You know, or Liv Morgan, stuff like that. Bianca Belair. If you look at AEW, obviously Hangman Page would be an obvious choice. He's never been a world champion. I don't think he's ever been a Ring of Honor champion either. So Hangman Page getting his first title, I think, would be a good pick. Shotzi Blackheart for NXT Women's title, Women's Champion, I think that'd be a good choice. Yeah, there's a lot to choose from. You know, John Morrison's never been a WWE champion. I like to point that out there down the road if they ever split up Miz and Morrison. I think that'd be a good choice to have Morrison find a way to beat Miz for the championship. I think that'd be a pretty cool story. So, Nate, I like those questions, man. You're the man. All right, folks. That's a conclusion for this week's edition of the Good Brothers Q&A session. As always, if you ever want to send me a question, all you have to do is hit me up on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast, or you could send me an email, thehootspodcast@gmail.com. So, I want to thank you guys for sending the questions. Nate and Chris, great job as always. And when I come back here, after this quick water break, I'm going to be going over what happened this week in the crazy world that is the WWE. And we'll be right back just in a couple seconds here on the Hoots Podcast. Don't forget the Thoughts of Joshie debuts later on the podcast. And also, we got our infamous What the Hell is Wrong with AEW segment later on. So be on the lookout for that. So we'll be right back in a couple seconds. Welcome back to the Hoots Podcast, everybody. It's time to go over what happened this week in WWE. We got Raw and SmackDown to get to and give you my outlook as to what I'm looking forward to seeing in 2021 for the WWE. I guess we start off with SmackDown last week, the Christmas episode that came after the Vikings and Saints game on Fox. Really cool show, man. Just top to bottom, top tier wrestling from the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens steel cage match. I mean, you know, I really am opposed to the whole fight forever chant and stuff, but these two could fight forever and I wouldn't have a problem with this. So I love to see that. And, you know, you have the three-way tag team match for the women's tag team titles. It was Charlotte and Asuka retaining against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair and Bayley and Carmella. You had Reginald out there. Corey Graves is just on cloud nine. And that match was just awesome. The match layout with that was a lot of fun to transcribe. I think I got like 5 paragraphs out of that match. It was one I wanted to jot down. Bayley and Carmella are a good tag team. You know, what else is there to need to be said about Sasha and Bianca? Their work speaks for themselves, and Charlotte and Asuka are obviously the top 2 female performers on Monday Night Raw. So it was like an all-star match. It was really cool to watch, and, you know, I always mentioned over the last couple weeks, man, Carmella just continues to capitalize on her TV time, and I think that's a big point of emphasis that the more talented WWE should implement in 2021, man. It's not about who's going over or what's on a script or anything like that. It's not important. You have real estate. It's your opportunity to maximize your value on TV. It's not about what's on a written promo or anything else besides you. You are your brand. You have to get yourself over. And I loved that match. I thought it was fantastic. The Daniel Bryan Jey Uso match was very stiff. Had like a New Japan vibe to it. Just nice and snug. You know, I mentioned this last week. I just don't understand why people feel like, here's the thing. I don't get why people are like so bogged down by the WWE style. Okay, it's their style. New Japan has their style. AEW obviously has their style. MLW has their style. Like, it's okay for these wrestling companies to have their own wrestling style. Like, not all these promotions have to be booked and wrestle and have the same vibes. Like, that's not the point of this stuff. Like, you don't listen to hip-hop for folk music. You don't listen to rock for house music, you know? like they're different. They're in different categories for a reason. Like, yeah, the root of it is pro wrestling, but not all wrestling promotions have to be booked or wrestled or whatever. They don't all have to be the same. I just don't get that line of thinking for some. So, and then, you know, the big happy moment to set us off for the Christmas day was Big E becoming your brand new Intercontinental Champion by defeating Sami Zayn in a pretty fun lumberjack match to close out the show. So, pretty good stuff from top to bottom, man. There really wasn't anything to really dog on when it came from SmackDown. I just thought it was one of their best shows of the year for SmackDown. It was a really fun show to transcribe. And then we go to Monday Night Raw, where we had a lot of wrestling on that 3-hour program this past Monday night. There was 7 matches, but there was a lot of time given to these matches. And going back to what I was mentioning earlier about maximizing TV time, shout out to Dana Brooke, man. She had a good competitive match with Shayna Baszler, and she looked like she belonged in there. And that's improvement. That's just being real. That's just being giving a tip of the hat to Dana Brooke, because she's really improved a lot over the last couple months, and her and Mandy Rose are a good tag team, and they've been putting out some really good performances recently, and I'm happy for both those ladies' success. So, yes, Dana Brooke, tip the cap from yours truly on that. We had Keith Lee and Sheamus start the show. By the way, Bryan Alvarez said that Keith Lee and Sheamus was boring. Alright, pal. Keep saying that to yourself. Hey, has anybody had the update on the W9 forums yet from AEW? I'm still trying to figure that out from Alvarez. Good God. Oh, man. Alright. So, Keith Lee and Sheamus, snug, physical match, kind of like a Ishii Makabe feel, if you want like a New Japan comparison. Like, that match was just awesome to watch. Keith Lee won. He'll be taking on Drew McIntyre on Legends Raw. That's coming out this Monday, the first Raw of 2021. And that's going to be a fun match. Keith Lee's going to get a shot for the WWE title, and we'll see what happens there. We found out that Bobby Lashley and Daniel Bryan, per se, are entering the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble match. Also, we found out that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler will be entering for the Ladies Royal Rumble match as well. I'm kind of surprised that the Rumble's so late this year. It's on the 31st of January in 2021, so we got a little while to build up this pay-per-view, and that's fine. We'll have enough time to build up some interesting matches and find out who else is going to be in those prospective Rumble matches, and it should be fun to watch. We had Grand Metalik had an upset against The Miz, but it wasn't all bad for The Miz, because The Miz got back his Money in the Bank briefcase. He should send a big check for Omos for bailing him out and being a good brother of all good brothers, if you will, because Omos is the one that gave Miz the loophole to get his damn briefcase back. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then what else happened on the show? Oh, AJ Styles and Elias. I thought that was a very, very good match for both those guys. More competitive than I thought it was going to be for a TV match. So if you guys, that was probably one of the best matches on that show this past Monday night. Then obviously we had Charlotte and Nia. They're continuing on their tag team feud. And then the Hurt Business had a pretty fun 8-man tag team match with the New Day, Jeff Hardy, and Matt Riddle. So my favorite part of Monday Night Raw is the continuing saga between The Fiend, Randy Orton, and Alexa Bliss. I'm going to play audio for the Alexa Playground segment, and we're going to get to that. But first, here's what happened during Monday Night Raw with Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss.
Randy Orton, come on down. I don't think Randy Orton wants to play with us anymore. I swear,
By God, pal, by God. You know, one thing when it comes to wrestling for me, especially with like podcasts and stuff, is that for me, like, I like to stay in one lane. I rarely like pivot on a thought that I have. Like, I give you my perspective. You can agree or disagree, and we just move on from there, right? One common thing that I always see on Twitter, more specifically on Monday nights, is people whine about story structure, not enough TV elements, not enough cliffhangers and stuff on the shows, right? So we have this thing where Alexa challenges Randy Orton to the ring. Is it a match? What is it? Alexa challenged Randy Orton to do the same thing to her that he did to Bray Wyatt at TLC. So basically, Alexa wanted Randy Orton to set her on fire for a shoot. She called him a little bitch, trying to play in his head, and, you know, Randy's just doing a great job, and he's like, you have no idea how much I want to. His character, he is sick and demented, and it was some really good stuff. I mentioned it the other day. Like, Alexa, in my opinion, is the best female talker in the entire wrestling business. It's not just one company-specific take there. This is just everywhere. I think Alexa Bliss is just the best on the mic anywhere. She's phenomenal, and Randy Orton's done a great job with this segment. And don't be surprised if you see the Fiend back at the first Raw 2020. Obviously, the things could continue, or they wouldn't continue on with these segments. Maybe you could do Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss as a match on next Monday's Raw. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see for that. But I just really enjoyed the storytelling in that segment. And Randy Orton did light a match, but we did not see if Alexa Bliss got on fire or not. And the show went off air like that. There was a cliffhanger, so you have no idea what happened. So you have to wait till next week to figure out what went down. And they're like, really? That's how you're gonna end Monday Night Raw? Really? That's the booking idea to close up your last show of the year? Really? Like, don't you know so many times that wrestling fans talk out of both sides of their ass and that they want their cake and eat it too? Like, sometimes you give these wrestling companies no chance to win. Like, you want them to do one thing, they do it, and then it wasn't to the way you would do it. Like, you gotta make up your mind, man. I hate that whole I need to have my cake and eat it too mentality. Pick a fucking lane, man. Jesus Christ. Alright. To wrap up this segment, I do want to mention really quick, NXT's New Year's Evil is shaping out to be a pretty interesting show. I saw the show last night. It's going to be hosted by Dexter Lumis. They announced that we've got Karrion Kross against Damian Priest. We got Raquel Gonzalez against Rhea Ripley in a last woman standing match. We got, of course, the main event, Finn Balor against Kyle O'Reilly Part 2 for the NXT Championship. Those are the big three matches on the show next Wednesday night. New Year's Evil for NXT is going to be a barn burner of barn burner shows, so I'm looking forward to that. But to wrap up this segment, I do want to go over the 2021 outlook that I have for WWE going into the next year. And with everything good, bad, and different that went down this year for WWE specifically, I just want to give tip of the cap to all the performers and everybody in that company for the risks and things that they tried out. Some worked, some didn't. To all the talents that were there for the 4 months performing in the PC or the Capitol Wrestling Center and pulling off really good wrestling matches and some real dialogue and real storylines and promos during that era, my hats go off to you. My hats go off to Drew McIntyre, in my opinion, who was the wrestler of the year in the entire business. Drew McIntyre really deserved all the credit. I saw the Slammy Awards that he got last week. So tip of the hat to Drew McIntyre, tip of the hat to Randy Orton, who's done the best work of his career. Shout out to Roman Reigns, the tribal chief of pro wrestling. You know, seeing a little resurgence in Kevin Owens' career is really nice to see as 2020 concluded. You know, I really love the stuff with the Monday Night Messiah. When it comes to 2021, there's a couple things that I like to see more of and less of from WWE. And for me, I like to see a little bit more emphasis in grudge feuds for the IC and United States Championships. I like to see less of Tom Phillips on my screen, so the sooner we can have anybody but Tom Phillips at play-by-play on Monday Night Raw, I think would be a good thing for everybody, and especially me. I like to see a little bit more. We'll see what happens with The Miz and John Morrison. Where does that go? More Hurt Business in 2021. My favorite group in wrestling right now, the Hurt Business. I'd like to see more of that. Also, I like to see the women's tag team titles be defunct, and also like to see a all women's weekly show. So, not in a sexist way where we just kick Raw or SmackDown, kick the ladies from Raw and SmackDown off their respective shows, but sooner or later, I think the women deserve the chance to have their own show with just their own roster, you know. On the network, you can do like an hour show every single week with just the ladies in WWE, right? I like to see that. I don't know if I want to see Brock Lesnar in 2021. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'd like to see John Cena come back. I know WrestleMania is going to be around the corner. It's going to be here before you know it, so we'll get into that and what matches I'd like to see for that in future episodes. But I'll give you one match that I would like to see at WrestleMania. AJ Styles against Triple H. I think that would be pretty cool, man. So that would be my pick. So all in all, man, there's things that can be improved on with every wrestling company, obviously. But I think the big thing for me, I just like to see a change in the flow of the play-by-play commentators. I just think they all sound the same besides Andy Shepard from NXT UK. So, yeah, that was my outlook for WWE in 2021. So, when I come back, let's take a quick water break right here. When we come back, I'm going to be making some predictions. Yes. For Wrestle Kingdom 15. It's coming up, guys. It's going to be a long night, 2-night event at Tokyo Dome. It's going to be absolutely insane. So, with that said, we'll be right back right here on the Hoots Podcast. Back here on the Hoots Podcast, ready to make some predictions for the Wrestle Kingdom event that's taking place on Monday and Tuesday, January 4th, January 5th, for those keeping score at home. 2-night special event for New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's their biggest show of the year. Wrestle Kingdom, one of the biggest pro wrestling events of the year. Looking forward to joining this one. This will be my 6th or 7th Wrestle Kingdom that I've covered. And, you know, they're long nights. You know, covering these events live are a struggle at times. But I just like... I enjoyed the experience, and it's always fun to cover these events. So for night one, we have a pre-show match. It's a New Japan Rambo. It's basically a battle royal. The winner will determine who will challenge for the provincial KOPW trophy on night two. First match is Hiromu Takahashi against El Phantasmo. First one match here I'm going to predict is Hiromu Takahashi will fight Taiji Ishimori at night two. So I'm going to go with Takahashi. Match number 3, Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. or Suzuki Gun, whatever you want to call it, putting their IWGP Tag Team titles on the line against Guerrillas of Destiny. I got GOD fulfilling their destiny and becoming the Tag Team Champions at Wrestle Kingdom. Kenta against Kojima for the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship Rights to Challenge contract. Kenta will retain. I'm surprised they couldn't find a better opponent for Kenta than Kojima, but it should be a physical match, so we'll see what happens there. Tanahashi against the Great Khan. Singles match here. I got Tanahashi beating the Great Khan. Okada against Will Ospreay. I go with the upset here, folks. I got Will Ospreay defeating Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. Jay White beat Okada at Wrestle Kingdom a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Will Ospreay will defeat Okada this year at Wrestle Kingdom. So that's my prediction there for that particular match. All right, the main event for night one is Naito against Ibushi for both the IWGP/IC titles. We'll have a new champion as Kota Ibushi will defeat Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. That's my big prediction there for night one. All right, night number two, we have a four-way match. It hasn't been determined yet who will be in that fatal four-way match for the provisional trophy. I'm pretty sure Yano will find a way to retain that once I'll just say Yano just out of happenstance. Suzuki Gun members El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru putting their IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles on the line against Taguchi and Master Wato. I got Taguchi and Wato to become the new tag team champions there. Shingo Takagi against Jeff Cobb for the Never Openweight title. I got Shingo retaining over Jeff Cobb. I got Sanada defeating Evil in a grudge match. I got Takahashi becoming the brand new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. And then finally for night two, I got Kota Ibushi retaining over the Switchblade, Jay White, and Kota Ibushi will lead the Tokyo Dome as the double champion, the IC champion, and the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So, a lot to look forward to on this event. It's going to be absolutely insane. These events are always fun to cover, for better or worse. I just like what they do, and it's always fun to transcribe these shows. And I haven't seen a bad Wrestle Kingdom, so I doubt this one's going to be bad. So it's going to be cool to just get back in that grind, and I always love covering New Japan Pro Wrestling events. They haven't even announced yet the card for New Year's Dash. Is kind of like their not encore show, but their Fallout show they do every year. The New Year's Dash show, that's going to be taking place on Wednesday the 6th, so there's a lot of New Japan stuff to cover next week. So be on the lookout for those articles. They'll be out there for you to enjoy, and check those out at ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. All right, folks. Enough time wasting, man. Let's get to it. Let's give the people what they want. It's the moment you've been waiting for. Right here on the Hoots Podcast, the most highly requested segment in all of professional wrestling, aka What the Hell is Wrong with AEW? And we're going to start off this bad boy in a 3, 2, and a 1.
It's time for What the Hell is Wrong with AEW?
What the hell is wrong with AEW? This one's definitely going to be restaurant quality edition, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started, you guys know usually the drill here. We usually break down and recap what happened on AEW Dynamite. But, I really have nothing to complain about from Dynamite last night because, believe it or not, guys, last night's AEW Dynamite was the best TV wrestling show that I've seen in 2020. The outpouring of messages and stuff from people that have been affected by the loss of Brodie Lee and John Huber, it's been really heart-wrenching to sit back and watch it, seeing tribute videos from AEW and WWE, I want to give a tip of the cap to Tony Khan and everybody in AEW for what they pulled off last night. All the performers that were in the matches did a fantastic job. I have nothing to complain about match layouts or anything like that. And I think there's a misconception when it comes to this particular segment, and it's not just rooted into trashing AEW as a company or anything like that. What the hell is wrong with AEW is a comedy, a segment rooted in comedy, but also kind of debunking some of the myths and elitist attitudes that come from the people that cover AEW or some people in AEW itself. But our goal is not to trash it. There's times where we do mention stuff that we do like on the show. We like to keep it balanced here on the Hoots podcast, but just seeing everything that went down last night, I really have. There's nothing to complain about. There's nothing to actually think about. And last night was a good stark reminder of the stuff that I've been bringing to the table here on the Hoots podcast. Is that when you're watching a wrestling show, and I thought Tony Schiavone did a great job. I mentioned this last night. Last night was not about ratings. It's not about competition. It's not about booking. It's not about other bullshit that we talk about on all these wrestling podcasts. It's not about that. It's about honoring the people that have dedicated their lives to this business, that have died for this business. It's to pay homage and just enjoy the art of what pro wrestling is. I saw that last night. And for me, to everybody that works for AEW, that was my all-time favorite show that they've ever produced. I thought Brodie's Celebration of Life episode was better than Double or Nothing, All Out, All In. I thought, honestly, for me, that was my favorite AEW show that I've ever transcribed last night. And I hate crying during wrestling shows. I hate it. It's rough. It's hard. It was hard not to. Last night was really, really hard to watch. Get to see Brodie Jr. or -1 as they called him on the show. Just do his thing. He attacked MJF with a kendo stick. Was so special. And I said, man, the testament of characters, what they are as a man, how they are as a father, how they are as a brother, a husband. Just your overall character, that's what's the most important thing. It's measured by what you are as a person, not what you've done, not what the success you've had. And, here in the old 55 video package at the end just broke me at the end of the show. Brodie's going to be missed, man. And I hate that this happened. A lot of us wish this wasn't reality. There was a complication of a lung issue. This wasn't COVID related, and Brodie's gonna be missed, man. This sucks. That's why it's very important to understand that we can't take anything for granted. We can't take any day for granted. You can't take any person for granted. You can't, in general, you just can't take anything for granted because anything can be gone in a moment's time. So I look at last night's shows as an overall success, man. Cole Cabana killing it in the beginning of the show. My favorite match of the show, you had Heyman Page and Heyman Page, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds against the Inner Circle, and Eric Rowan came out, and it sucks, man. I just can't even imagine what Brodie would have been thinking about what would his facial reaction be to seeing that show last night. And the main event was Cody, Orange Cassidy, and 10 against Team Taz. It was a hand-picked match by Brodie's son. That was his dream match for a 6-man tag, and it was awesome, man. It was a really fun show. It was my favorite AEW show of 2020, and it's my favorite AEW show of all time. So thank you, Tony Khan, and everybody at AEW for what you guys put on last night. With all that being said, this segment is going to be transitioned to the people that cover AEW and kind of the root of my issues with the company as we get into the outlook of 2021 for AEW. My biggest issue with AEW is they cater to the worst common denominator of wrestling fans. They placate to dirt sheet riders who are soulless, lack empathy, and lack ethics. And too many times throughout the shows, the AEW is placated to that type of person and that type of audience. And as a guy who's worked in this wrestling media business since 2014, I'm ashamed, literally ashamed to be a wrestling media member today. I'm recording this on a Thursday, and I think this came out on Sunday because Brodie passed away on Saturday night. And Bruce Mitchell, now formerly of PW Torch, got fired after putting out the most repulsive article I've ever seen about professional wrestling. As somebody who's actually a professional broadcaster and went to school for this stuff, there's one thing about digging into info and doing your job and asking questions, and then there's another thing where you're not reading the room and you're just being a total cunt. And Bruce Mitchell is that to the T. That article he put out, bagging transparency from AEW and Brodie Lee's family about what happened and what was this and what was that, was just absolutely repulsive. And also, I'm not leaving Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer off the hook because they're on my shit list too, because Bryan Alvarez earlier this year, this is the whole 2020 year in review show, right? Bryan Alvarez said on a podcast this year where he was downgrading the level or the severity of Roman Reigns' leukemia. I'm not leaving those guys off the hook because they are the standard bearer of this, right? They're the go-to guys in the wrestling media, right? They are just as vile and repulsive as Bruce Mitchell is. So I am not putting those two on a pedestal. I'm not. What that dude put out in that article was sickening. That family doesn't owe you, doesn't owe me, doesn't owe anybody anything. Hell, they didn't even have to do that show last night if they didn't want to. I don't know where we are right now as a wrestling media contingent where I know the bad side of the wrestling media. I've seen it firsthand. I'm not perfect by any means. But one thing I've always kept true to myself in my experience of being in the wrestling media is the fact that for me, I never make things personal with performers. Anytime I've ever critiqued AEW, it's about the wrestling in the ring. You've never heard me talk about booking or anything like that with AEW. My thing with the shows was just the wrestling wasn't good, in my opinion, right? And then, for me, I never went out of my way to make snarky personal shots at other people. Unless they made something stupid where it was warranted to criticize them, like Chris Jericho having a freaking concert in Arkansas during a pandemic where people are not wearing masks. Something stupid like that. I'm going to call that out. But I would never go out of my way to totally disrespect somebody over wrestling or make these personal with performers. That's not my deal. I have the utmost respect for everybody in this wrestling business, and I know it's a flawless business, and they make a lot of mistakes. It's not a morally correct industry. Hey, man, we're all wrestling fans. We've been watching this our entire life, and we know what we're getting into. And we know about wrestlers dying at a young age. And we know about all the bad stuff that happens with wrestling. But we still watch it because it's our escape. And last night was really powerful in seeing that through all this bad stuff that's going on right now, there was a sense to feel of synergy last night that really came over me while I was watching this event on TNT last night. And just going back and this thing about that article he put out is like, what are we doing here? I'm really sick and tired of the snarkiness when it comes to my field of media, in the wrestling media. We don't lack empathy. Like, yeah, I get it. Usually media members are rooted in being miserable and being morose and all this extra stuff. I get it. But for the same wrestling media contingent that always goes on their soapboxes about wrestling companies not reading the room when it comes to decisions they make, you should look in the mirror as well when you're saying that. Because what Bruce Mitchell put out there on Sunday was bullshit. Pure and utter bullshit. And I'm just leaving it at that. Because, he got fired. He got his consequence for it. And I hope he really takes time to look himself in the mirror, because that dude has some fucking problems. The outlook for 2021 for AEW for me goes like this. They really need to switch their commentary team. I'm sorry. I love JR, but he's not cut it anymore. I'm still not Excalibur guy, and Tony Schiavone's just there. So that's the first thing. They got to cut out the announce team. It's just not good. I like to see more emphasis just the match and actually telling a story in the match than just doing spots. I can come on here and do the whole JR thing. Oh, there's not enough selling, and we all stand up like quails, and that whole thing with brand color. I'm not going to do that. But I've had a hard time suspending my disbelief when it comes to certain matches from AEW. So that needs to change. I need to see less Chris Jericho in 2021. I just need a break from Jericho. Now, there's good things on the horizon. You still got the MJFs of the world. You got Hangman Page. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm starting to like what I'm seeing from the Dark Order. You still got FTR, obviously. But I like to see less emphasis on the circus acts. All right? Like, we need to cool it down with Pockets and Jelly Nutellas of the world and a bunch of other people. But, like, I like... There's been some good stuff that's been going on for AEW, and shows have been better over the last couple of weeks, so I'll give credit where credit's due. But still, my biggest thing for 2021, let me know what your identity is. We're going into 2021. The show started in October of 2019, and I still don't know what the identity of AEW is. That's a problem. That's something that needs to be changed as we go into the new year. So, all that being said, one last thing. I said I wasn't leaving Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez off the hook. So, this morning, I woke up and heard the clip of them reviewing the tribute show. Right? And Bryan Alvarez can't help himself. He just can't. Bryan Alvarez goes on a soliloquy about how it's nice to see that Tony Khan is a genuine human being, but takes an indirect shot at people that work at WWE. We just had a television show where it was a celebration of a man's career from both companies, and nobody was taking shots at anybody. Yeah, I saw the stupid tweet from Darby Allin. I'm not even going to get into that because that's just wasted energy. But nobody's taking shots at each other. We're honoring a tremendous man and a tremendous performer. But Bryan Alvarez always has to make something out of AEW and WWE. everything. It doesn't matter what show he does. He always has to make it an AEW versus WWE thing. Can we honor a man's legacy without making some silly-ass high school debate competition? Like, Bryan Alvarez is the dude that's going to pick out the flaws of some dude that has the girl that he wants. That's who he is. It's just absolutely... It's ridiculous, man. Honestly. And it's not to AEW, but this is to Bryan Alvarez. What the hell is wrong with AEW?
This has been What the Hell is Wrong with AEW.
Alright guys, we're about to be reaching our final destination here of the Hoots podcast for 2020. I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your schedule to listen to the podcast today. It was a lot of fun. I really hope as we go into the new year that we can have some fun and enjoy wrestling more. And I'll talk about that more in a couple minutes. But I just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you taking time to listen to this podcast this year. This really means a lot to myself and Brett Carter. We can't do this without you. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you for giving the show a chance. As always, you can get the podcast free of charge every single Thursday at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts from. You can follow me on Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. I'm on Instagram at Joshie Lopez94. That's Joshie Lopez94 on the Instagram. And you can check me out at Josh Lopez Music if you want to see me do some guitar covers. Also, make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com and leave us a 4 or 5 star review on Apple Podcasts so it helps expand the reach of the podcast. I do want to mention that Brett Carter will be back next week to have a brand new edition of Thoughts of Jericho to start off the new year in 2021. But all that being said, I really hope you guys do have a happy new year. Hope Christmas was well to you. Have a great rest of your holiday season. We'll be back here next week to recap what happened at Wrestle Kingdom and make predictions for the next coming Impact Wrestling special called Genesis. I'll be looking forward to that. And don't forget, folks, be the authentic product that is yourself. Remember, you are dictating the pace of your life, nobody else. And I love and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the Who's Podcast. We haven't even reached our ceiling yet, and that's scary of the potential of this podcast. And sky's the limit for all of us here on the Hoots Podcast. So, I'm Joshie. Have a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year's, everybody. We're going to toss it out to myself for the first edition of the Thoughts of Joshie. This has been episode 238 of the Hoots Podcast. We're sending out to the one and only, nefarious brother Adam for this week's edition of Thoughts of Joshie. Have a great weekend, everybody. I love you guys. We'll talk to you next week. Yes, sir.
And now, the Thoughts of Jericho. Listen well, man.
Welcome, one and all, to the segment where we won't be popping bubbly to honor the new year. We'll raise you a big jug of agua, aka H2O. This segment featuring the one, the only, the nefarious brother Adam. 2020 has been a year that obviously all of us will never forget. But as we go into the new year, I want everybody to understand that right now is the biggest opportunity, no matter what stage you are in your life, to really take a step back and actually ask yourself what you want out of yourself at the end of the day. What do you want from you? What do you want to do going forward in 2021? What goals do you have? What things will make you happy and put you in a better spirits? What's the energy that you want to surround yourself with? Those are questions that you should be asking yourself when it comes to 2021. I personally don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I never have. I let my work help me reach my goals. And I want to talk more like big picture things when it comes to this thoughts segment because, we've went through a lot this year, obviously. Pandemic aside, we've lost family members. We've had an election go down. We've had movements. We've had violence, looting. A lot of crazy shit went down this year. And like I said, this could be a year that none of us will ever forget. But the thing with life is, where do we go from here? What's next? We're still in the midst of this pandemic. There's been complications with these distributions of vaccines. Nobody knows what to trust or anything like that. But I think, given everything that's going on, what are you doing to better yourself along that way? I saw this great meme on Twitter the other day that said, if 2020 did not bring out the hustle in you, it's not in you. I am rooted and been raised to be a hustler. My dad's a hustler. My grandfather's a hustler. I come from a family of hustlers and working hard and reaching your goals. And this is nothing for me to pat myself on the shoulder. I want you guys to embrace hustling and embrace the art of working hard and reaching what you want. Because when you have that work ethic and you have that drive to do things that you want to do and nobody's can stop you, it's very powerful, man. It really is. Because here's the beautiful thing, man. You could actually start living your life on your own terms. And I'm starting to realize that now. I have a lot of interesting things coming my way in my life in the next couple of weeks, and especially in 2021, that I'm looking forward to. And things and challenges I'm looking forward to and conquering. But for me, I look at this year as something, I look at this year as a mixed bag for myself, because for me, I look at it as progress, obviously professionally. It's been my most successful year as a wrestling media member. Just overall success with the success of this show, ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. But personally, it's been a wake-up call in a lot of ways of stuff that I no longer want to be part of, and energy that I just don't want to deal with anymore. And I think we all reach that part of our life where something major happens to you, and you can take that step back and realize, enough trying to please people, enough trying to do things just to win a woman over or whatever situation you're in, right? If you're not in tune with yourself, how can you expect anybody to be in tune with you? I already shared the story, guys. You guys know, man, my heart was fractured last summer, and it's taken almost a year and a couple months to really recover from this, man. Because it's not something that I thought about it every day. I don't think about it as much now, but I learned a lot from that experience, and believe it or not, man, it's made me a better man. It's made me a better person, and I know what I want out of my life now. And I know what I want out of relationships and stuff like that. And this is just another reminder that I'm on the right path too. Even with all that happened in Florida last year, I'm in a much better place right now than I am right here on December 31st, 2020 than I was last year at this time. And I think that's a good thing. That's progress. We all have bad days. Some days are better than others, But I look at this year as an opportunity to take my professional life to the next level. I already got things coming my way personally that I'm looking forward to. And I'm really excited to see what this year brings. So, again, I say this at the end of the show every single week because it's true. You are allowed to dictate the pace of your life. Nobody else. You have everything within you to be the authentic product that is yourself. Don't make New Year's resolutions. Find yourself in the next year. Find out who you are. Why are you here? What makes you, you? That's my question to each and every single one of you. What makes you, you? I hope you have a wonderful New Year, everybody. Keep the faith. Hope everybody's being safe and everything with all the precautions and health measures. And we'll have a wonderful year in 2021 with the Hoots podcast. I love you guys. Keep the faith and find you in 2021.
This has been The Thoughts of Jericho. You're smarter now, man.